Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 5 of the anime series Shokugeki no Soma. And we're picking up right where we left off, in the heat of seemingly Soma getting his ass handed to him by Satoshi Ishiki, the dish he created. And I love how Soma is very much apt to the task. I mean, he whips off his sort of armband turned bandana, and he ends up utilizing this sort of trick of the trade, a French culinary tactic that he learned from his father, which I guess means that his father is actually a world traveler already. This wasn't something he just, was a spur of the moment. He closed his little diner and decided to take off and travel the world. Apparently he's done this before. Maybe several times in his history, and so he's picked up on a lot of different, culinary tactics from around the world, and this was one that Soma employed without even understanding exactly what it was, what it was called, and everything like that. He's actually kind of surprised when, Satoshi brings up the name of this particular tactic, its usages, where it comes from, and, the background of it and everything like that. As far as Soma was concerned, it was just something he learned in the diner from his father. And it shows the prowess that his father yields, but it also shows Soma's own prowess, which is not lost on his, at least the remainingly conscious new comrades in arms of the Polar Star Dormitory, Satoshi included, who get a taste of, this little dish that Soma whips up with the rice and the salmon, the fish, whatever it was. They're all just in ecstasy of this idea of the oncoming of spring that is embodied in this particular wrap and everything, and kind of mirroring and playing off of what Satoshi's own dish was meant to do. I like how Satoshi describes, let's see what narrative you can produce with your dish through its flavoring and all that kind of stuff. And Soma rises to the challenge. Now, they kind of leave off with this being like a stalemate, like they were pretty much equal. And there's the one cat who I'm like, what is up with this guy? We find out his name toward the end. I think we've had the name handed to us before, but I hadn't really taken notice. But Ibusaki, who I guess is meant to be Satoshi's assistant in the same way as Erina has an assistant, who's very much on her coattails as far as wanting to taste her food every step of the way. And you have this guy toward the end of the episode basically being to Satoshi like, you really weren't even full mast. You really didn't even go all the way with this dish you challenged Soma with. You were holding back. And Satoshi's kind of playing dumb and dialing it back like, no, I did the best I could, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But he's so enamored and impressed with Soma's prowess, you can almost see them working together to an extent, in any case. And as someone pointed out on my previous video in comment discussions, well, even if they work together for a time, it's still going to inevitably come up with them having to potentially face off against each other. Although I'm calling that into question now because of what we find out through, the next morning when Soma tries to challenge Satoshi formally and officially, and it falls flat because, well, apparently there are rules and regulations and, that kind of stuff, formalities, as to how one approaches such challenges. But it seems to be left open after we go through all of those particular, different facets that have to be involved, the three main facets, if you will, that have to be involved for Soma to potentially challenge someone. Satoshi points out that, well, you can pretty much challenge anybody as long as you meet those three requirements. And suddenly I'm thinking like maybe it's not so much a matter of Soma's having to go one by one through the 10 elite. Maybe he can just sort of bide his time, and then when he feels like the time is right, go after the top spot and then win the day, instead of having to go through a sort of procedural effect of one after the other. Maybe he just, can jump in at any time when he feels like his skills are at the absolute peak, and that could be quite intriguing. Of course, we also have sort of an emphasis on Erina, pretty much showcasing what this formal, sort of versus match is, this Shokugeki, if you will. I've heard people refer to it as to the death, and I don't think that's literal in this case, as we see with this, dude over here, Sumo, who's like trying to save the sort of validity of his little ramshackle dojo, culinary academy, whatever it is, which basically Arina is calling into question. And so they go and have this formal duking it out versus match. Basically, they both make a dish, they have judges, and Sumo loses. Unceremoniously and like down on his knees, he watches as they basically just destroy and level this little ramshackle, and it's not fit in Arina's eyes, and by the determination of this match, this versus match, it's not fit to be part of the bill. And you see this guy kind of referring to her as being the bloodline of the demon, or whatever the terminology was, but the emphasis to be very ominous on sort of her, as well as because they focus a lot on her grandfather, the sort of headmaster, the sort of crime lord, the godfather of this entire food affair, this food academy and everything. And so right then and there, it's kind of like, could he be the guy Soma's eventually going to have to face off against? And it seems like he is the one who orchestrated Soma's being involved to begin with. So is it a matter of, he wants to see Soma take Arina down a peg, snap her back into reality, get that chip off her shoulder, which is something I speculated earlier? Or is it, maybe there's some sort of ties between this old fart, if you will, like, Soma's father, maybe they go back a ways and he's kind of trying to, take it out on Soma. I'm not exactly sure. Like, maybe the father will jump in at some point later on and be like, oh, this ain't fair. I know this old guy and he's trying to go after my son. And I mean, for me, at this point, with the length of the series being, I think it's 25 episodes confirmed at this point, it could really go any which way. By the end of this episode, though, when Arina has effectively won, had that little ramshackle leveled, as I say, sent, Sumo back in effectively, and you have Soma having so impressed Satoshi, and talking about wishing he could have gone after Arina, and being told by Megumi, you don't stand a chance, you probably lose. We have debuted to us as Arina's trying to look over the next victim, if you will, to go after, the Meat Master. I mean, talk about the sexiest chick in the opening, the OP animation and everything. I mean, she stood out to me right away, reminded me heavily of a character from Daphne and the Brilliant Blue, which I called back to in my previous episode discussion video. Basically just the skin tone, the blonde hair, the skimpy sort of almost schoolgirl outfit, just very much seemed reminiscent of a character from Daphne and the Brilliant Blue, whose name escapes me. But she looks like she's ready to, cut somebody with that knife, with that blade that comes out. She's ready to cut a bitch. And I can't wait to see just exactly what this entails. Is she going to go after Soma immediately and, potentially lose? Or is she going after somebody else? It seemed to me like maybe she was going after another one of the highbrow, fellow students, whether in Soma's own class, or maybe those rivals that we saw in, another class that were saying in a previous episode, if only they were in Soma's class, they would have taken him down. I'm wondering just exactly who's going to be pitted against who. I don't think it's always going to be Soma versus, fill in the blank. I think we're going to see some of these other characters maybe taking down other characters, building up their prowess, showing us what they're capable of, and then eventually they're going to be directed towards Soma, and, just a throwdown will ensue of the culinary arts, and I can't wait to see. Much as I speculated, we saw that big auditorium, was basically meant for this Shokugeki versus scenario, and I just can't wait to see what happens next. I'm completely, you know, blank as far as what could potentially happen next. And I love that. I love the anticipation and surprise that is awaiting us for the next episode and, you know, the entirety of the series. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of Shokugeki no Soma Episode 5, if you've seen it, and if not, what's wrong with you? Get on the ball with this series, because it is a ball. It's a blast. And, yeah, as long as there's no, you know, spoilery stuff from the origin material, as I was asked. But I love speculations. I love, you know, kind of just trying to feel out where we think the story's going and having that conversation back and forth with you guys in the comments. And otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. So I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.